Anyone who watches the Ingraham Angle knows this. The rot on American college campuses runs really deep. From blatant anti-Semitism to anti-conservative mobs, these formerly, and it's an important point, formerly elite institutions are crumbling under the weight of their own wokeism. And with the fall of disgraced plagiarist and DEI poster child Claudine Gay from her role as president of Harvard, the left feels exposed and now cornered, and they're lashing out.
There is this sort of open war on Black progress. They're just trying to take out any woman or person of color who leads elite universities.
This is an attack on diversity. That's why Claudine Gay was under attack. The fact that she's a Black woman only added to their thirst to dethrone her. I don't have to say that they're racist because you can hear and see the racism.
Even the Associated Press joining in, the AP, claiming the new conservative weapon against academia is exposing plagiarism. Not making it up, exposing it. Joining me now, Ned Ryun, founder and CEO of American Majority, and Dr. Tabia Lee, former DEI director at De Anza College and director of the Coalition for Empowered Education. Ned and Lee, thank you both for being here. Ned, it's clear that the left has no plans to take responsibility for the death of actual academia. So where does a place like Harvard go from here? How can this DEI complex unwind itself? Will it?
Boy, it's going to be hard, Peter. Pete, I think they've committed to this. They've been committed to this for decades. I mean, I think Harvard stopped being an academic of higher learning, more indoctrination center in which they're really trying to conform students to rigid dogmas instead of actually free thought and free inquiry. They're committed to this, obviously, this whole situation. The fact of the matter is they might have removed Claudine Gay as president. She's still a member of the faculty, still making, as of today, her $900,000 salary as former president of Harvard. They are determined, it appears, to continue down this path. And the shame of it is that DEI, this poisonous alphabet soup, DEI, CRT, BDS, that's being crammed down these young skulls is being exposed for the hollow, for the false god that it actually is. Yet they continue to double down on it because they've based their entire approach to the world, the entire approach, how they view everything, oppressed versus oppressor, the entire lens by which they judge certain things as right or wrong, is all based on this. I mean, this is an entire worldview, a belief system, Pete, that they're not going to leave behind, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to continue to defend it, even though it's been shown to be hollow and lacking in complete and total merit.
Lee, is that your take? I mean, you heard what one MSNBC pundit said, an open war on Black progress, the firing of Claudine Gay. Is it that? Or is it finally exposing the depths of DEI and how destructive it's become inside our universities?
You know, as Ryan just mentioned, we're seeing the fruits of labor of this toxic critical social justice ideology and how committed the ideologues are to preserving it and advancing it. What happened with Claudine Gay has nothing to do with race or gender identity checkboxes. But what you see these mainstream pundits doing now is attempting to convince all of us that that's what this is about. It's simply not true. Mm-hmm. This is about educational leadership and fitness to lead. And as we saw in the congressional hearings, McGill, Gay, Kornbluth, they all demonstrated an ineptitude to lead during these times and to address anti-Semitism on their campuses. And they all should have resigned the day after if they had any kind of moral courage or, conscience. That's what they would have done. With the cover-up that took place with Harvard Corporation and Gay and trying to tell us, that what we were seeing isn't plagiarism when we see whole paragraphs lifted from scholars' work, it's just ridiculous. And it shows their deep commitment. They're willing to distort reality. Objective truth means nothing to these people. What matters is their ideology and preserving it by any means necessary.
Ned, to Lee's point, there are some in the media now claiming this is not plagiarism. No, this is not plagiarism. Here's how they're defending her lifting these entire passages. Watch.
I have not seen any evidence that Claudine Gay was guilty of true plagiarism. this is part of a well-orchestrated, misleading smear of Claudine Gay and of Harvard University.
Ned, that was Randall Kennedy. He's a Harvard professor. Not true plagiarism, just copying.
I mean, it's Harvard standards, Pete. I mean, these are Harvard standards in regards to what plagiarism is or isn't. And according to those standards, she's guilty of at least 50 violations of plagiarism. The amazing part to me in this whole situation is that some people have lost such complete perspective, they cannot call anti-Semitism anti-Semitism. They cannot call plagiarism plagiarism. They instead call it racism. They've even got to the point, I mean, the basis of this is apparently meritocracy is some form of racism and white supremacy, because Claudine Gay, at the heart of all of this, is a deeply mediocre person who was put into that position not because of merit, but because she checked a box. And Harvard was exposed on that. And I think that's another embarrassment for Harvard that they don't want to fully engage with, is that they are completely embarrassed. They checked a box. They bought into this belief system of DEI and were completely exposed by it because Claudine Gay is clearly not up to what it took to be the president of Harvard and lacked any moral authority or clarity on being able to call out anti-Semitism, quite frankly, because at the heart of it, really quick, Pete, DEI is racism and, quite frankly, is anti-Semitic, because anytime you view the world through the race of lens, by its very definition, you are a racist.
Yeah, an anti-racist gets to be racist because they're racist against the right person. I think I have that right. Dr. Lee, real quick, last word is can DEI be ripped out of institutions like this, in your experience? Real quick.
You know, that's a tough one. We're seeing how deeply committed individuals are to this toxic ideology. They're willing to redefine racism, redefine anti-Semitism, redefine plagiarism, and almost anything to fit their toxic worldview. And many of us are waking up and we're saying enough is enough. And we need changes in the leadership, not just the leadership, but we need more oversight into what's being taught in classrooms by faculty members. Because if it's this toxic ideology, and that's it, with no viewpoint diversity, we're in trouble as a society and as higher educations of learning, higher education institutions.
Yeah, if you can't say, if you can't say what a woman is, then how can you describe what plagiarism is or anti-Semitism is? I mean, it's all gone at that point. Ned and Dr. Lee, thank you very much for your time. Great insight.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.